Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you appreciate these thought-provoking explorations of science and the universe, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. The universe, it's a vast and mysterious place. It's filled with wonders that challenge our understanding and push the boundaries of our imagination. But within this cosmic expanse lies a concept so unsettling, so profoundly disturbing, that it forces us to confront the very nature of reality itself, the concept of the Boltzmann brain. Imagine, if you will, a brain complete with thoughts, memories, and experiences spontaneously forming out of the random chaos of the universe. It might sound like something straight out of a science fiction novel, but the idea of the Boltzmann brain is actually rooted in the fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. Today we're going to take a deep dive into this unsettling concept, exploring its origins, its implications, and the profound questions it raises about our place in the cosmos. To understand the Boltzmann brain, we must first journey back to the 19th century and delve into the work of physicist Ludwig Boltzmann. Boltzmann was a pioneer in the field of statistical mechanics, a branch of physics that seeks to explain the behavior of systems with a large number of particles like gases or liquids. One of Boltzmann's most significant contributions was his interpretation of entropy, a concept that had puzzled scientists for decades. Entropy, in simple terms, is a measure of disorder or randomness. The more disordered a system is, the higher its entropy. Boltzmann's key insight was that entropy is not simply a property of a system's energy, but rather a reflection of the number of possible arrangements its particles can take. Imagine a room full of air molecules. There are countless ways these molecules can be arranged, but the vast majority of these arrangements will result in the air being evenly distributed throughout the room. This is a high entropy state because there are so many ways to achieve it. On the other hand, there are very few arrangements where all the air molecules end up clustered in one corner of the room. This is a low entropy state because it's so improbable. Boltzmann showed that over time, systems tend to evolve towards states of higher entropy. This is because there are simply more ways for a system to be disordered than ordered. Think about it this way. If you shake a box of puzzle pieces, it's far more likely that they'll end up in a jumbled mess than that they'll magically assemble themselves into a completed puzzle. This tendency for systems to move towards disorder is what we call the second law of thermodynamics, and it has profound implications for our understanding of the universe. Now, here's where things start to get really interesting. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that entropy must always increase in a closed system, but it doesn't say that entropy can't decrease locally or temporarily. In fact, random fluctuations can lead to small pockets of order emerging from chaos. For example, it's theoretically possible for all the air molecules in a room to spontaneously cluster in one corner, even if it's incredibly unlikely. The larger the decrease in entropy, the less probable the fluctuation, but improbable doesn't mean impossible. This brings us to the crux of the Boltzmann brain paradox. If we imagine a universe that has existed for an infinite amount of time, a universe where every possible arrangement of particles has had a chance to occur, then statistically speaking, it becomes far more likely for a single conscious brain to spontaneously pop into existence than for an entire universe like ours to have evolved from a low-entropy Big Bang. This hypothetical brain, complete with illusory perceptions and memories, is what we call a Boltzmann brain. It's a deeply unsettling thought that our own existence, our memories, our very sense of self, can be nothing more than a fleeting fluctuation in a vast, chaotic universe. The idea that we might be Boltzmann brains challenges our fundamental assumptions about reality. It suggests that our experiences, our perceptions, and even our scientific understanding of the universe could be utterly unreliable. If we are Boltzmann brains, then our memories are illusions, our thoughts are mere random firings of neurons, and our perception of a coherent, ordered universe is a cruel, cosmic joke. The implications of a Boltzmann brain-dominated universe are profound and deeply disturbing. They strike at the very core of our understanding of the world and force us to confront the possibility that our existence is far more tenuous and meaningless than we dare to imagine. But before we succumb to existential despair, let's explore some of the arguments against the Boltzmann brain hypothesis. One of the most common objections to the Boltzmann brain idea is based on the anthropic principle. The anthropic principle, in its simplest form, states that we can only observe a universe that is capable of producing observers. In other words, it shouldn't be surprising that we find ourselves in a universe that allowed for our existence. We wouldn't be here to ponder the question otherwise. The anthropic principle, however, doesn't imply that we must embrace the most improbable explanation for our existence. Just because Boltzmann brains are theoretically possible in an infinite universe, it doesn't mean they're the most likely explanation for our being here. In fact, The anthropic principle, combined with Occam's razor, suggests that we should favor the simplest explanation consistent with our observations. And surely, the idea of an entire universe evolving over billions of years to produce stars, galaxies, and ultimately life is simpler than the spontaneous emergence of a solitary conscious brain with all its complex memories and perceptions. However, the Boltzmann brain paradox forces us to confront a deeper question. What if our understanding of the universe is fundamentally flawed? What if the Big Bang wasn't a singular event, but just one of countless fluctuations in an endless sea of chaos? If that's the case, then the existence of Boltzmann brains becomes not just possible, but statistically probable. It suggests a universe where fleeting moments of consciousness like our own are constantly flickering in and out of existence against a backdrop of infinite emptiness. It's a chilling thought, but one that challenges us to grapple with the very nature of reality and the possibility that our perception of the universe is far more limited than we dare to imagine. The Boltzmann brain paradox that pushes us to the edge of our understanding forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the vastness of the unknown. It's a stark reminder that even our most cherished scientific theories are subject to revision, and that the universe may hold surprises far stranger than we can currently conceive. The implications of a Boltzmann brain-dominated universe are unsettling, to say the least. If we are to accept this hypothesis, then we must also accept that our memories, our experiences, and our very sense of self could be nothing more than elaborate illusions. Every observation we make, every thought we have could simply be a product of random particle arrangements rather than reflections of a shared external reality. This notion strikes at the very core of our understanding of the world and calls into question the validity of our scientific endeavors. If our perceptions are unreliable, how can we trust the conclusions we draw from our experiments and observations? The Boltzmann brain hypothesis also presents a challenge to the Copernican principle, the idea that we do not occupy a privileged position in the universe. If Boltzmann brains are the most common form of conscious observers, then our own existence, grounded in a complex evolved biosphere, becomes an anomaly, a cosmic outlier. This contradicts the Copernican principle, which suggests that our vantage point in the universe should be typical rather than exceptional. The idea that we might be Boltzmann brains is, as philosopher Sean Carroll puts it, cognitively unstable. If we accept this premise, we are essentially admitting to a state of profound delusion. We are acknowledging that our capacity to reason to deduce the nature of our reality is fundamentally compromised. It's a self-defeating conclusion to believe that we are Boltzmann brains, is to undermine the very cognitive faculties that led us to that belief in the first place. But perhaps the most compelling argument against the Boltzmann brain hypothesis lies in its inherent unfalsifiability. How can we possibly disprove the notion that we are merely disembodied brains, our perceptions conjured by random fluctuations? Any experiment we conduct, any observation we make, could simply be part of the illusion. This unfalsifiability, while troubling, may also be the key to dismissing the Boltzmann brain hypothesis. A scientific theory, to be considered valid, must be testable, must offer the possibility of being proven wrong. The Boltzmann brain hypothesis, by its very nature, evades such scrutiny. It's important to note that while the Boltzmann brain thought experiment is fascinating and thought-provoking, it remains highly speculative. There is no scientific evidence to suggest that our universe originated from random fluctuations in a state of thermal equilibrium. The Big Bang, as we currently understand it, remains the most plausible explanation for the universe's origin and evolution. However, the Boltzmann brain paradox serves as a valuable reminder to approach scientific inquiry with a healthy dose of skepticism and humility. It challenges us to question our assumptions, to consider alternative explanations, and to recognize that our current understanding of the universe may be incomplete, perhaps even fundamentally flawed. It reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing journey, one that often leads to more questions than answers. The Boltzmann brain concept also underscores the importance of carefully considering the underlying assumptions when dealing with probabilities. The assumption that our universe arose from a random fluctuation in a state of thermal equilibrium is crucial to the Boltzmann brain argument. But if that assumption is incorrect, the entire edifice crumbles. The universe as we observe it appears to be governed by laws and principles that guide its evolution, suggesting a deeper order than mere random chance. The Boltzmann brain paradox, while rooted in theoretical physics, ultimately transcends the boundaries of science and ventures into the realm of philosophy. It compels us to contemplate the nature of reality, the meaning of consciousness, and the possibility that our perception of the world may be far more limited than we imagine. It forces us to confront the unsettling notion that our existence, with all its joys and sorrows, might be a fleeting anomaly in a vast and different universe. But even in the face of such existential uncertainty, the human spirit persists in its quest to understand its place in the cosmic order. We continue to explore, to question, to seek meaning in a universe that often seems indifferent to our inquiries. And perhaps in that very act of seeking, we find a measure of purpose, a reason to believe that our existence, however improbable, is not without significance. The Boltzmann brain thought experiment, while unsettling, also serves as a catalyst for exploring alternative cosmological models. If we are to avoid the disconcerting conclusion that we are most likely disembodied brains, we must seek explanations for our universe's low entropy that don't rely on random fluctuations in a state of thermal equilibrium. One such avenue of exploration lies in the concept of eternal inflation, a theoretical framework that posits the existence of an eternally inflating multiverse. In eternal inflation, our universe is but one bubble in a vast, ever-expanding sea of universes. Each bubble universe can have its own unique set of physical laws and constants, and it's conceivable that our universe, with its low entropy and life-permitting conditions, is simply one of many possible outcomes. In this scenario, the existence of Boltzmann brains might still be possible, but their prevalence would depend on the specific properties of the multiverse and the distribution of different types of universes within it. Another intriguing line of inquiry involves exploring the nature of quantum mechanics and its implications for the early universe. The very early universe, just moments after the Big Bang, was a realm of extreme energy densities and temperatures where quantum effects played a dominant role. It's conceivable that quantum processes yet unknown to us could have driven the universe into a low entropy state, setting the stage for the emergence of structure and complexity. The Boltzmann brain paradox serves as a stark reminder of the limits of our current understanding. It highlights the need for new theoretical frameworks and experimental observations that can shed light on the universe's early history and the nature of entropy. The search for a more complete understanding of our cosmic origins is a journey that requires us to push the boundaries of our knowledge, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the possibility that the universe may hold surprises far stranger than we can currently imagine. While the idea of Boltzmann brains might seem like an abstract philosophical conundrum, it has profound implications for our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. It challenges us to confront the possibility that our perceptions of reality might be flawed, that our memories could be illusory, and that our existence might be far more tenuous than we care to believe. But even in the face of such existential uncertainty, the human spirit remains undaunted in its quest to unravel the mysteries of the universe. The pursuit of knowledge, the drive to understand our cosmic origins, and the yearning to find meaning in a vast and seemingly indifferent universe are all testaments to the enduring power of human curiosity and our unwavering desire to make sense of our place in the grand scheme of things. The Boltzmann brain paradox, with its unsettling implications and profound questions, ultimately serves as a call to action. It urges us to delve deeper into the mysteries of the universe, to explore new frontiers of knowledge, and to never cease questioning the nature of reality itself. And perhaps in that very act of questioning, we will find a measure of solace, a glimmer of hope that our existence, however fleeting and improbable, is not without significance in the grand tapestry of the cosmos. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the mysteries of the cosmos. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in our exploration of the strange and fascinating cream, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a thought experiment, one that has haunted philosophers and science fiction enthusiasts for centuries: the brain in a vat. Imagine this: your brain, severed from your body, suspended in a vat of life-sustaining fluid. Wires snake out, connecting your neurons to a supercomputer, feeding you a meticulously crafted simulation of reality. You experience everything as you normally would: sights, sounds, emotions. But it's all an illusion, a grand deception orchestrated by the machine. How could you prove at this very moment that you are not living in such a simulation? This unsettling possibility plunges us into the depths of skepticism, forcing us to question the very foundation of our reality, our knowledge, and even the meaning of our existence. The brain in a vat thought experiment serves as a stark reminder of the limitations of our perception, and the unsettling possibility that everything we believe to be true could be a carefully fabricated illusion. This isn't just a philosophical mind game. It forces us to confront the profound implications for how we understand the world and our place within it, To truly grasp the weight of this thought experiment, we need to trace its origins back to one of history's most influential thinkers, René Descartes. In his meditations on first philosophy, Descartes embarked on a radical quest for certainty, systematically doubting everything he thought he knew. He even entertained the possibility of an evil demon, a malicious entity dedicated to deceiving him about the nature of reality. This might sound outlandish, but Descartes' demon serves as a powerful metaphor for the inherent uncertainty of our senses. Think about it. How can we be absolutely certain that our experiences accurately reflect an external world rather than a cleverly constructed illusion? This is where Descartes' famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, comes in. Even if the content of our thoughts could be manipulated, the very act of doubting and thinking proves the existence of a thinking self. Descartes' radical skepticism laid the groundwork for the brain in a vat scenario, which essentially updates the evil demon to a mad scientist and the illusions to a sophisticated computer simulation. But the core question remains the same. If our experiences are just electrical signals interpreted by our brains, how can we know for sure what's real and what's simulated? This thought experiment isn't about providing definitive answers. It's about prompting us to grapple with the unsettling unknowns that lie at the heart of our existence. It's about questioning the very nature of knowledge and reality, and exploring the profound implications for our understanding of self-meaning and purpose. Now let's delve deeper into the arguments for and against the brain in a vat scenario, and explore how this thought experiment, while unsettling, can ultimately empower us to engage with the world in a more critical and insightful way. Because even if we can't definitively prove or disprove the possibility of a simulated reality, the mere act of confronting this question forces us to reevaluate what we truly value and how we choose to live our lives. The brain in a vat scenario might seem like a product of pure philosophical speculation, but it's closely tied to a concept that's gaining traction in scientific and technological circles: simulation theory. This theory proposes that our reality might be a sophisticated computer simulation, perhaps created by a more advanced civilization. Both the brain in a vat and simulation theory challenge our fundamental assumptions about what's real, blurring the lines between the physical world and the digital realm. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but does it really matter if we're living in a simulation? Well, the implications are far-reaching and touch upon some of the most profound questions about the nature of consciousness and personal identity. If our experiences are nothing more than electrical signals interpreted by our brains, then what does that say about our sense of self? Is our unique identity, our feeling of being a distinct individual, just an elaborate illusion? And if we were to be disconnected from this simulated reality, what would happen to our consciousness, to our sense of who we are? This leads us to another intriguing philosophical concept: solipsism. Solipsism is the radical belief that only one's own mind is certain to exist. It's the ultimate form of skepticism, suggesting that we can't be sure of anything beyond our own thoughts and experiences. Now, while most philosophers don't subscribe to solipsism, it serves as a useful tool for exploring the limits of our knowledge and the potential pitfalls of relying solely on subjective experience. Imagine for a moment that you are the only conscious being, and everyone else is just a figment of your imagination. It's a dizzying thought, but it highlights the challenges of proving the existence of an external world independent of our own minds. The brain in a vat thought experiment pushes these ideas even further, suggesting that even our own minds might be subject to manipulation and external control. This raises fundamental questions about free will and determinism. If our thoughts and actions are predetermined by the parameters of the simulation, do we truly have agency over our lives? Or are we merely puppets dancing to the tune of a master programmer? These are unsettling questions, and the brain in a vat scenario doesn't offer easy answers. But that's precisely what makes it such a powerful philosophical tool. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding, to grapple with uncertainty, and to reevaluate our assumptions about the nature of reality, self, and meaning. It's a journey into the depths of our own consciousness, a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence, and a challenge to engage with the world in a more critical and insightful way. We've spent this deep dive wrestling with the unsettling possibility that we might be brains in vats. Our experience is meticulously orchestrated by a supercomputer. It's a thought experiment that can leave us feeling disoriented, questioning everything we thought we knew about the world and ourselves. But what if instead of fearing this possibility, we embrace it as a catalyst for deeper reflection? What if even in the face of radical uncertainty, we could find a way to live meaningfully, to connect with others, and to pursue truth and understanding? Does the potential artificiality of our reality diminish the value of our experiences or the meaning we find in life? Does it negate the reality of our emotions, our relationships, our aspirations? These questions force us to confront what truly matters, what holds intrinsic value. Regardless of the nature of reality itself, consider this. If everything we experience is ultimately part of a simulation, does it make our love any less real? Does it invalidate our struggles, our triumphs, our search for purpose? The brain in a vat thought experiment doesn't offer easy answers, but it does illuminate a profound truth. Even in the face of radical doubt, we have the power to choose what we value, to find meaning in our experiences, and to connect with others on a deeply human level. The possibility of a simulated existence, while unsettling, can also serve as a powerful reminder of the fragility and preciousness of our conscious experience. If our reality is indeed constructed, it highlights the extraordinary complexity and wonder of the human mind, capable of generating entire worlds within its own confines. It prompts us to marvel at the intricate tapestry of thoughts, emotions, and sensations that make up our subjective experience. Moreover, contemplating the brain in a vat scenario can lead us to a deeper appreciation for the shared human experience. Even if our individual realities are ultimately subjective and potentially simulated, we still share the common ground of consciousness, of experiencing the world and interacting with others. This shared space of awareness, regardless of its underlying nature, allows for connection, empathy, and the possibility of building meaningful relationships. The brain in a vat thought experiment doesn't offer a definitive answer to the question of our reality's nature, but it does offer a profound opportunity, a chance to re-examine our assumptions, to confront the limits of our knowledge, and to choose what we will value. Even in the face of uncertainty, it encourages us to live with a sense of wonder and curiosity, to appreciate the beauty and complexity of our conscious experience, and to cherish the connections we forge with others. And that, my friends, is a journey worth taking. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the strange and fascinating, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Until next time, stay intrigued. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in exploring the depths of fascinating concepts, make sure you like and subscribe to stay on top of future deep dives. Today, we confront a question that strikes at the very core of what we value, what we desire, and what we consider a life well lived. We're diving into the experience machine, a thought experiment that forces us to examine the nature of happiness, reality, and the choices we make in navigating the complexities of existence. Imagine a machine, a technological marvel capable of simulating any experience imaginable, a world crafted to deliver a constant stream of pure, unadulterated pleasure, where every desire is fulfilled, every whim catered to, and every pain meticulously avoided. Within this machine, you could experience the heights of joy, the thrill of adventure, the depths of love, all without the sting of disappointment, the burden of loss, or the weight of suffering. A tantalizing proposition, is it not? To exist in a perpetual state of bliss where every longing is effortlessly satisfied. But would you choose such an existence? Would you willingly surrender to a manufactured reality? A world meticulously curated by algorithms and devoid of the unpredictable, messy, and often painful realities of the physical world? That is the central question posed by philosopher Robert Nozick's experience machine thought experiment. This thought experiment is not merely an intellectual exercise. It's a scalpel that dissects our understanding of what truly matters. It challenges us to confront the allure of hedonism, the belief that pleasure is the ultimate good, the driving force behind our actions, and the sole metric of a life well lived. If pleasure indeed is the pinnacle of human experience, why wouldn't we embrace a machine that guarantees an uninterrupted flow of it? A world where suffering is but a distant memory. Nozick, however, argues that our pursuit of a meaningful life extends beyond the realm of fleeting pleasures. There are inherent values, experiences, and aspirations that we would not readily sacrifice, even for a guaranteed utopia of delight. He suggests that we as humans crave more than just the passive reception of pleasurable sensations. We yearn to be active participants in our own lives, to shape our destinies, to strive for goals, to overcome challenges, and to leave our mark on the world. The experience machine, in its seductive promise of perfect happiness, strips us of this agency. It reduces us to mere vessels, absorbing a pre-programmed stream of experiences, but never truly living, never truly being. Consider for a moment the satisfaction of achieving a lifelong dream. Would the feeling be the same if it were merely simulated? If you hadn't endured the struggles, the setbacks, the moments of doubt that paved the path towards genuine accomplishment? Nozick argues that true fulfillment stems not just from experiencing, but from doing. From the messy, unpredictable, and often arduous journey of creation and self-discovery. He posits that we value being a certain kind of person, developing character traits that align with our values and aspirations. We want to be courageous, compassionate, wise, and just. These qualities, however, are not simply a collection of experiences downloaded into our consciousness. They are forged through our choices, our actions, our interactions with the real world, and the challenges we overcome. Can a machine truly cultivate these qualities within us? Or does it merely create an illusion, a superficial veneer of virtue without the substance of real character development? The experience machine presents a tantalizing, yet ultimately hollow existence. We may experience the sensations of being a certain type of person, but are we truly embodying those virtues without the real-world tests and trials that shape who we are at our core? The allure of the experience machine lies in its promise of perfect happiness, a world devoid of hardship and disappointment. But is happiness truly the sole measure of a life well lived? Are we willing to sacrifice authenticity, agency, and genuine connection for the allure of a painless, effortless, and ultimately artificial existence? These are questions that force us to confront the very essence of what it means to be human, to grapple with the inherent complexities of our desires, and to acknowledge the profound interplay between pleasure, reality, and the pursuit of a meaningful existence. Now, while Nozick presents compelling arguments against plugging into this so-called experience machine, it's important to acknowledge that there are counter-arguments and modifications to this thought experiment that warrant our attention. For instance, some philosophers posit that our inherent aversion to the experience machine might be rooted in what is known as status quo bias. This cognitive bias describes our natural tendency to favor our current state of affairs, even when presented with alternatives that might objectively be better. In essence, we are creatures of habit, often resistant to change, even when change could lead to greater happiness or fulfillment. Imagine this. If we were to reformulate the experience machine thought experiment so that you were already plugged in, unaware of your true reality, would you choose to disconnect? If your simulated life was filled with joy, purpose, and meaningful relationships, would you willingly opt for the uncertainty and potential hardships of the real world, a world you have no memory of? This modified scenario throws a fascinating wrench into the equation, does it not? It forces us to confront the possibility that our rejection of the experience machine might stem not from a deep-seated philosophical conviction, but from a simple aversion to the unknown. And if that's the case, what does that say about our understanding of free will and the choices we make? Are we truly autonomous agents? Or are we simply products of our experiences, our biases, and our innate fear of disrupting the status quo? The experience machine doesn't just challenge our understanding of happiness and reality. It also forces us to question the very nature of choice and the factors that influence our decision-making. Consider the concept of the transformation machine. Imagine a machine that not only provides experiences, but also shapes the user's personality and abilities. Instead of just simulating the experience of being a brave or compassionate person, this machine would actually instill those qualities within you. It would mold you into the type of person you aspire to be, eliminating those pesky character flaws and amplifying your virtues. Would you be more inclined to plug in if you knew that the machine would not only provide pleasurable experiences, but also elevate you to a higher version of yourself? This modified scenario muddies the waters even further, forcing us to grapple with the idea that perhaps personal growth and transformation are not solely dependent on real-world experiences, and that perhaps there are shortcuts to becoming the best versions of ourselves. It raises intriguing questions about the role of technology in shaping our identities and the potential for artificial means to facilitate personal growth. And then we have the results machine. This intriguing variation takes the experience machine a step further by ensuring that the actions taken within the simulation actually have real-world consequences. Imagine a world where your heroic deeds in the virtual realm translate into tangible benefits for others in the real world. You could solve world hunger, cure diseases, or even prevent wars, all from the comfort of your simulated reality. With the knowledge that your actions were making a real difference in the world, sway your decision to plug in. The results machine introduces a whole new layer of complexity to the ethical dilemma. It forces us to weigh the potential benefits of our actions against the authenticity of our experiences. Would we be willing to sacrifice the richness and unpredictability of the real world for the guaranteed positive impact we could have in a simulated one? These counter-arguments and modifications to the experience machine demonstrate the enduring power of this thought experiment. It's not a simple binary choice between pleasure and reality. It's a complex web of ethical considerations that forces us to confront our deepest values, our understanding of the self, and the nature of a life well lived. So where does this leave us? What insights can we glean from this deep dive into the experience machine and its various permutations? Perhaps the most crucial takeaway is the realization that happiness, however desirable, is not the sole measure of a meaningful existence. The experience machine, in its promise of perfect bliss, exposes the limitations of a purely hedonistic worldview, prompting us to consider other values that might be equally, if not more essential, to a fulfilling life: authenticity, agency, connection, growth, purpose. These are just a few of the many facets of human experience that lie beyond the realm of mere pleasure. The experience machine challenges us to examine our own priorities, to discern what truly matters to us beyond the allure of comfort and gratification. It compels us to ask ourselves, what kind of life do we want to lead? A life of passive consumption or active engagement? A life defined by external validation or internal growth? A life of simulated experiences or authentic encounters? These are questions that resonate deeply in our modern world, a world increasingly intertwined with technology, simulation, and the pursuit of curated experiences. Think about the rise of social media, video games, and immersive entertainment. These technologies, while offering undeniable benefits, also present us with carefully constructed versions of reality, often designed to maximize engagement and pleasure. We can craft online personas, curate our digital experiences, and even escape into virtual worlds that cater to our every whim. But as we delve deeper into these digital realms, it's worth pausing to consider the potential trade-offs. Are we sacrificing genuine connection for the fleeting validation of likes and shares? Are we prioritizing the pursuit of virtual achievements over real-world accomplishments? Are we losing sight of the beauty and complexity of the physical world as we become increasingly immersed in digital landscapes? The experience machine thought experiment serves as a potent reminder that technology, while a powerful tool, can also be a double-edged sword. It can enhance our lives in countless ways, but it can also distract us from what truly matters, from the authentic experiences and connections that give life meaning and depth. So how do we navigate this complex terrain? How do we embrace the possibilities offered by technology without losing sight of the values that make us human? Perhaps the key lies in mindfulness, in being aware of the choices we make and the potential consequences of those choices. It's about using technology intentionally as a tool to enhance our lives rather than allowing it to dictate our experiences and shape our perceptions of reality. It is about finding a balance between the digital and the physical, the virtual and the real, the pursuit of pleasure and the cultivation of meaning. The experience machine and its provocative and enduring relevance invite us to engage in this ongoing dialogue, to critically examine our relationship with technology, and to consciously choose the reality we want to inhabit. It's a thought experiment that challenges us to be active participants in shaping our own lives, rather than passive consumers of pre-programmed experiences. It's a reminder that true fulfillment lies not in a perpetual state of bliss, but in the messy, challenging, and ultimately rewarding journey of being human, in a world that constantly invites us to question, to explore, and to create. And as we conclude this deep dive into the experience machine, we leave you with a final thought, a question to ponder as you navigate your own reality. Would you choose a manufactured reality, even if it promised perfect happiness? The choice ultimately is yours. Remember to like and subscribe to Peak Intrigue for more explorations into the hidden corners of our world. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find this deep dive into the fabric of reality itself thought-provoking, please like and subscribe to the channel. Today, we're venturing into the unsettling depths of the simulation hypothesis. It suggests that our reality might be a meticulously crafted illusion, a simulation created by a civilization far beyond our own. You've already explored the basics, you've delved into Bostrom's trilemma, so let's go deeper. Let's examine the implications that truly resonate with you, that make you question everything you thought you knew. Let's consider the limits of computation. Imagine trying to simulate an entire universe down at the subatomic level, every interaction, every fleeting thought. Some physicists argue that it's simply impossible, that the complexity of our universe far exceeds any conceivable computational capacity. It makes you wonder, are there inherent limits to what can be simulated, or could a sufficiently advanced civilization find ways to circumvent those limits, perhaps by harnessing the power of quantum computing, or by employing simulation techniques we haven't even dreamt of yet? This is where the simulation hypothesis becomes truly captivating. It forces us to confront the boundaries of our current understanding and to imagine possibilities that lie beyond the horizon of our current technological capabilities. But even if we set aside the computational challenges, there's another question that lingers. Why? Why would a civilization with such godlike power bother to simulate our world with all its imperfections and complexities? What purpose would our simulated existence serve? You've explored theories ranging from scientific observation to entertainment, even historical preservation. It's a question that delves into the heart of what it means to be human, our place in the cosmos, and the potential for beings beyond our comprehension to shape our destiny. Are we simply lab rats in a grand experiment, characters in a cosmic video game, or something else entirely? This is where it gets truly fascinating, because the philosophical implications of the simulation hypothesis are particularly intriguing. If we were living in a simulation, what does that say about free will? About the nature of consciousness? Are we merely puppets dancing on strings of code, our thoughts and actions predetermined by the program? Or do we possess some semblance of agency, even within the confines of a simulated reality? This question cuts to the core of what it means to be human, to experience the world, to make choices that shape our lives. Is our perception of free will simply an illusion carefully crafted by the simulators to make our existence feel meaningful? This leads us to an even deeper question. What is the nature of reality itself? If our physical world is simply a simulated construct, does that make it any less real to us? Does it diminish the value of our experiences or relationships, our triumphs and struggles? This is where the simulation hypothesis intersects with your own personal philosophy. Your search for meaning and purpose in a world that may be far more fluid and malleable than we ever imagined. And as we delve further into this philosophical rabbit hole, I want to address one final point before we move on to part 2. The potential for the simulation hypothesis to lead to nihilism, a sense that nothing truly matters if our reality is ultimately illusion, is a valid concern and one that we should address head-on. Because even if we are living in a simulation, even if our physical world is a construct, the emotions we experience, the connections we forge, the impact we have on others, these are all real. They're real to us, and they have real consequences within the context of our simulated reality. To deny the significance of our experiences simply because they occur within a simulated framework is to miss the point entirely. The simulation hypothesis, rather than undermining the meaning of our lives, challenges us to find meaning in a world that may be far stranger and more wondrous than we ever imagined. We left off pondering the potential for nihilism if our reality is just a simulation. But you've also provided sources that explore the opposite. Finding more meaning if this is all a construct. Let's consider that. If our universe is a simulation, it means there's something beyond it, a realm perhaps exceeding our current comprehension. Doesn't that make our existence more, not less significant? It means we're part of something larger, more intricate than we ever conceived. And this ties into your fascination with the nature of consciousness. If our minds can exist within a simulation, does that mean consciousness itself is more fundamental than the physical world? Could it be a universal constant, capable of manifesting in countless forms, perhaps even independent of any material substrate? This is where the simulation hypothesis intersects with cutting-edge theories in neuroscience and physics. It's no longer just a philosophical thought experiment, but a potential pathway to understanding the very essence of who we are. Your background in psychology makes this especially relevant. You've spent years studying the human mind, its complexities and contradictions. Now imagine applying that knowledge to a simulated consciousness. Would a simulated mind operate under the same psychological principles? Could it experience the same range of emotions, the same depth of thought? Or would there be subtle differences, telltale signs of its artificial origin? This leads us to a question you raised in your notes. If we are simulated beings, could we ever truly know? Are there glitches in the matrix, as the movie suggests, that could reveal the true nature of our reality? Some theorists believe there are. They point to anomalies in quantum mechanics, inconsistencies in the laws of physics, even seemingly impossible coincidences in our own lives, as potential evidence of the simulation's underlying code. But let's flip that question. What if there are no glitches? What if the simulation is so perfect, so seamless, that we could never detect its true nature? Would that make our reality any less real to us? Would it diminish the significance of our experiences? This is where the simulation hypothesis becomes a true test of our philosophical mettle. It forces us to confront the limits of our perception, to question the very foundation of our understanding of the world. And it compels us to consider a truly unsettling possibility. What if the simulators want us to believe this is all real? What if the illusion is so carefully crafted, so deeply ingrained in our consciousness, that we're incapable of seeing beyond it? This is where the simulation hypothesis ventures into the realm of the truly uncanny. It evokes a sense of paranoia, a suspicion that everything we hold dear might be a carefully constructed facade. But it also presents a challenge to push the boundaries of our perception, to seek knowledge even in the face of uncertainty, to strive for understanding even if the answers we find are not the ones we expect. And this brings us to the ethical considerations you've highlighted. If we are living in a simulation created by a more advanced intelligence, what responsibilities do they have towards us? Are we simply playthings for their amusement subject to their whims and manipulations? Or do they have a moral obligation to treat us with care to ensure our well-being, even within the confines of their simulated world? This is a question that has no easy answers. It delves into the heart of what it means to be ethical, to possess compassion and empathy, even for beings that might be radically different from ourselves. And it forces us to confront the possibility that our actions, even within a simulated reality, could have far-reaching consequences. Because if the simulators are observing us, studying our behavior, perhaps even guiding our evolution, then our choices matter. The way we treat each other, the way we shape our world, even the thoughts we think could all be data points in their grand experiment. And this realization can be both empowering and terrifying. It suggests that we have a role to play in the unfolding of this simulated reality, that our actions can have an impact, even if we don't fully understand the scope or purpose of the simulation itself. But it also reminds us that we might not be in control, that our destiny to some extent might be predetermined by the rules of the simulation, or the interventions of the simulators themselves. This tension between agency and determinism, between free will and the constraints of a potentially simulated reality, is one of the most fascinating and unsettling aspects of the simulation hypothesis. We've been wrestling with some heavy concepts of potential for our reality to be a simulation, the implications for consciousness ethics, even the nature of time itself. It's enough to make anyone question their place in the universe. But what if truly knowing we're in a simulation could change how we live? Think about the societal implications. If the simulation hypothesis were definitively proven, would it lead to chaos or a new kind of understanding? Would we see a breakdown of social order? Or perhaps a surge in collaborative effort now that we're all on the same simulated team? History shows us that humans react to paradigm shifts in unpredictable ways. The discovery of a simulated reality could be as profound as realizing the Earth isn't flat, or that we're not the center of the universe. If we knew for certain our world was a simulation, would that accelerate research into manipulating the code, finding backdoors, or even contacting the simulators themselves? It's a tantalizing prospect, but also fraught with risk. What if those in power seek to exploit the simulation for their own gain? What if our attempts to reach the creators backfire, destabilizing the very reality we depend on? The simulation hypothesis, for all its allure, remains a thought experiment. It's a lens through which we can examine our assumptions about reality, but it's not a blueprint for how to live. If you woke up tomorrow knowing without a doubt that your life was part of a simulation, would it change your choices? Would it alter your values, your goals, your relationships? Or would the fundamental aspects of human experience, love, loss, joy, sorrow, retain their significance regardless of the underlying nature of reality? This is where the simulation hypothesis, for all its grand implications, becomes deeply personal. It challenges us to confront our own mortality, our own sense of purpose, in a world that might be both more vast and more illusory than we ever imagined. But it also presents an opportunity to examine our lives with fresh eyes, to appreciate the beauty and complexity of the world around us, to connect with others on a deeper level, knowing that we're all sharing this extraordinary and potentially simulated journey together. Because ultimately, whether we're lines of code in a vast computer program or biological beings in a physical universe, the fundamental questions remain the same. What does it mean to live a meaningful life? How do we make choices that align with our values? And how do we find connection and purpose in a world that is often unpredictable and chaotic? The simulation hypothesis, even if never proven, can serve as a catalyst for introspection, for questioning our assumptions, for expanding our understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit. And perhaps that is its greatest value. Thanks for joining Peak Intrigue, and until next time, keep questioning everything. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in our explorations, please consider liking and subscribing. What if everything you know is a lie implanted in your mind just last Thursday? This is the unsettling proposition of last Thursdayism, a philosophical thought experiment that challenges our understanding of time, memory, and the very nature of reality. It suggests that the universe, including all our memories and physical records, could have been created last Thursday. Everything we perceive as our past is simply a fabricated illusion. Imagine waking up this morning believing you had a lifetime of experiences, only to discover that those memories were implanted mere days ago, that everything you thought you knew about history, science, and even your personal life is a carefully constructed fiction. How could you prove otherwise? How could you distinguish between genuine memories and implanted ones? Last Thursdayism forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the inherent trust we place in our perception of time. Let's delve into the origins of this mind-bending concept. The idea of a young universe is not new. Various religious and cultural traditions have proposed their own creation narratives, often assigning a specific age to the world. For example, a literal interpretation of the book of Genesis suggests that the universe is approximately 6,000 years old. This idea, known as creationism, has been a source of ongoing debate between religious and scientific viewpoints. Early scientific attempts to determine the universe's age focused on calculating the age of the Earth. In the 19th century, the emerging field of geology began constructing the geologic timescale based on Earth's strata layers, offering evidence of a much older Earth. These findings clashed with the literal interpretation of creation stories, sparking heated discussions and attempts to reconcile faith with scientific discoveries. One such attempt was made by Philip Henry Goss, a British naturalist, who in 1857 published a book titled Omphalos. The title itself is telling. Omphalos is Greek for navel, and Goss used this term to symbolize his theory. He argued that God created Adam and Eve with navels, even though they were not born, suggesting their perfect and complete creation. Extending this logic, Goss proposed that God created the earth with all the appearances of age trees, with rings that had never grown, fossils of creatures that never lived, all as part of a divine plan. He argued that this apparent history was not deceptive, but rather a testament to God's creative power. However, Goss's ideas were met with criticism even from within the religious community. His friend Reverend Charles Kingsley famously remarked that he could not believe God had written such a great and unnecessary falsehood upon the rocks for humanity. The debate surrounding the age of the universe and the reconciliation of religious beliefs with scientific evidence continued into the 20th century. In 1921, the philosopher Bertrand Russell presented a thought experiment known as the 5-minute hypothesis. This hypothesis proposed that the universe could have been created 5 minutes ago, complete with all its current appearances, including our memories of a past that never happened. Russell used this argument to demonstrate the inherent difficulty in proving the age of the universe and to challenge the assumption that a young universe, as suggested by some creationist viewpoints, was any more or less plausible than an older one. The seeds of last Thursdayism could be traced back to these earlier debates. While the exact origin of the term is uncertain, it gained traction in the 1990s and early 2000s, often presented as a parody religion or a satirical tool to highlight the absurdity of claiming to know the exact moment of creation. The Church of Last Thursdayism emerged online with its own set of tenets and beliefs, poking fun at the arbitrary nature of assigning a specific date to the universe's beginning. Both the 5-minute hypothesis and Last Thursdayism utilize a philosophical tool known as reductio ad absurdum, which means to reduce to absurdity. By taking an argument to its most extreme and illogical conclusion, they aim to expose the flaws in the original premise. In this case, they challenge the notion that a young universe should be accepted simply because it cannot be disproven. But beyond its satirical origins, Last Thursdayism raises profound questions about the nature of reality and our ability to trust our own perceptions. If everything we know could have been created last Thursday, how could we ever be certain of anything? How could we distinguish between genuine memories and implanted ones? How would this alter our understanding of history, morality, and the meaning of existence? These are questions that challenge us to confront the limits of our knowledge and to grapple with the unsettling possibility that our reality might be far more fragile and uncertain than we ever imagined. The implications of Last Thursdayism extend far beyond the realm of theoretical physics and philosophy. They touch upon the very core of our human experience, shaking the foundations of our personal identities and our understanding of the world around us. If our memories are not reliable records of the past, then what can we truly know about ourselves? If the history we have been taught is a fabrication, then what is the basis for our cultural values, our social structures, our sense of belonging? Consider the profound impact on our relationships. How can we truly connect with others if we cannot be sure that our shared experiences are genuine? How can we build trust and intimacy if the foundation of our past is uncertain? The bonds of family friendship and love are all predicated on a belief in a shared history, a tapestry woven from memories both joyous and sorrowful. Last Thursdayism unravels this tapestry, leaving us adrift in a sea of doubt and uncertainty. The legal and ethical implications are equally staggering. If our memories are not reliable evidence, then how can we administer justice? How can we hold individuals accountable for actions that they may have no genuine recollection of committing? The entire legal system is built upon the premise that we can accurately recall and recount past events. Last Thursdayism throws this premise into disarray, undermining the very notion of guilt, innocence, and responsibility. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of last Thursdayism is its existential implications. If the universe could have been created last Thursday, complete with all its apparent history and complexity, then what does that say about the nature of our existence? Are we merely characters in a cosmic play, our lives predetermined by an unknown author? Does free will exist in a universe where our past could be an elaborate illusion? These are questions that have haunted philosophers and theologians for centuries, and last Thursdayism brings them into sharp focus. The unsettling beauty of last Thursdayism lies in its unprovability. We can neither confirm nor deny its truth. It remains a thought experiment, a philosophical puzzle that forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the inherent fragility of our reality. It challenges us to question our assumptions about the nature of time memory and the very fabric of existence. And while it may not offer any easy answers, it compels us to engage in a deeper, more profound exploration of what it means to be human in a universe that may be far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Some might argue that last Thursdayism is merely a frivolous exercise in intellectual acrobatics, a mental game with no real-world consequences. But I believe that grappling with such radical ideas, even those that seem absurd or unsettling, can expand our understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit. By challenging our assumptions and pushing the boundaries of our thinking, we open ourselves up to new possibilities, new ways of seeing the world and our place within it. Last Thursdayism invites us to confront the ultimate mystery, the mystery of creation itself. It reminds us that we are finite beings with limited perception and understanding adrift in a vast and enigmatic cosmos. It humbles us by revealing the vastness of what we do not know and the precariousness of the knowledge we cling to. And in that humbling realization, there is a strange and liberating beauty, a recognition that even in the face of uncertainty and doubt, we can still choose to embrace the mystery of existence and find meaning in the ever-unfolding tapestry of life. Last Thursdayism is often dismissed as a mere thought experiment, a philosophical curiosity with no bearing on our daily lives. But I believe that its implications are far more profound and far-reaching than we might initially realize. It challenges us to reevaluate our relationship with time, memory, and the very nature of reality. It forces us to confront the limit of our knowledge and the inherent uncertainty of our existence. Consider the impact on our sense of purpose and meaning. If everything we know could have been created last Thursday, then what is the significance of our actions? Do our choices truly matter in a universe where our past could be an elaborate illusion? Some might find this notion liberating, freeing us from the weight of history and the burden of past mistakes. Others might find it deeply unsettling, robbing us of our sense of agency and purpose. Last Thursdayism also raises questions about the nature of truth. If our memories are not reliable guides to the past, then what can we truly know? How can we distinguish between fact and fiction, reality and illusion? The very foundations of our belief systems, our scientific understanding, our cultural narratives, all rest upon the assumption that we can accurately perceive and recall the past. Last Thursdayism undermines this assumption, leaving us adrift in a sea of epistemological uncertainty. But perhaps the most profound lesson of last Thursdayism is its invitation to humility. It reminds us that we are finite beings with limited perception and understanding. We are surrounded by mysteries that may forever elude our grasp. Our knowledge is always partial, our perspective always limited. And yet we strive to make sense of the world, to find meaning and purpose in the face of uncertainty. Last Thursdayism does not offer any easy answers. It does not provide a roadmap to navigate the complexities of existence. But it does offer a valuable perspective, a reminder that our reality is far more fragile and far more mysterious than we often assume. It challenges us to embrace the unknown, to question our assumptions, and to approach the world with a sense of wonder and awe. So as we conclude our exploration of this unsettling yet fascinating concept, I leave you with this thought. If everything you know could have been created last Thursday, how would you choose to live your life today? Would you cling to the familiar or embrace the unknown? Would you seek comfort in certainty or find beauty in the mystery? The choice is yours. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the intriguing and unsettling world of last Thursdayism. If you find value in our explorations, please consider liking and subscribing. We'll be back soon with another exploration into the unknown. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in our deep dives into complex topics, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Today we venture into a realm of thought that has captivated philosophers for centuries. The enduring mystery of personal identity. What makes you you? What is it that persists over time even as everything around us and within us seems to be in constant flux? Let's start by considering a simple example. Imagine two seemingly identical pencils. They have the same shape, the same color, the same lead. They're qualitatively identical, meaning they share the same qualities. But they're still two distinct entities. You can pick up one and then the other. This is what we call numeric identity. Even though they are qualitatively identical, they are numerically distinct. Now, let's shift our focus to something infinitely more complex. A human being. You are not the same person you were 7 years ago, physically speaking. Almost every cell in your body has been replaced. Your thoughts, your experiences, your relationships have all shaped and reshaped who you are. So what is it that connects the person you are today to the person you were years ago? What makes you you, despite the constant change that defines our existence? This is the heart of the problem of personal identity, a question that has no easy answers. Philosophers have grappled with this enigma for centuries, proposing various theories to try and unravel its complexities. One such theory is the continuity of consciousness. This perspective suggests that what makes you you is the continuous stream of your conscious experience. It's the unbroken thread of your awareness, your perceptions, your thoughts and feelings that bind your past self to your present self. However, this theory faces challenges when we consider states of unconsciousness, like sleep or anesthesia. When you're unconscious, your conscious experience ceases. Does that mean you cease to exist? And when you wake up, are you a different person because that thread of consciousness was temporarily broken? Another prominent theory is the continuity of memory. This view posits that your memories are the glue that holds your identity together. You are who you are because you remember being that person. Your memories of past experiences, past relationships, past triumphs and failures all contribute to the narrative of your life, the story of who you are. But memory is a fickle thing. We forget things, we misremember things, and sometimes we even create false memories. If our memories are so unreliable, can they truly be the foundation of something as fundamental as our identity? Consider also the possibility of shared memories. If we could somehow implant your memories into another person, would that make them you? Or would it simply create two individuals with the same memories while your unique identity remains distinct? To delve deeper into these intricate questions, let's turn to a more nuanced approach. The idea of memory and causality chains. This theory recognizes that while we may not remember every single detail of our past, there's a chain of memories and experiences that links us to who we were. You might not remember every step you took today, but you remember leaving your house, you remember arriving at your destination, and you remember the events that transpired in between. These memories form a chain, a narrative thread that connects your present self to your past self. This raises an intriguing question. If this chain of memories were to be broken through something like severe amnesia, would you still be the same person? Would you essentially become someone new? Or would there be some residual essence of your former self lingering beneath the surface? To explore these ideas further, let's venture into the realm of science fiction and consider the classic thought experiment of the Star Trek transporter. Imagine stepping into a transporter that scans your body, disassembles you down to the atomic level, beams your information across space, and then reassembles you at a new location. Is the person who steps out of the transporter on the other side truly you? Or has the transporter simply created a perfect copy while destroying the original? If we define personal identity based solely on the continuity of our physical body, then the transporter presents a profound dilemma. The person who steps out of the transporter on the other side possesses a different physical form. Their atoms have been rearranged, their molecules reconfigured. Are they still the same person despite this radical physical transformation? If, however, we prioritize psychological continuity over physical continuity, then the transporter might be viewed as a seamless form of travel. The person who emerges on the other side retains all of your memories, your personality, your thoughts and feelings. From a psychological perspective, they are indistinguishable from the person who stepped into the transporter. But let's push this thought experiment even further into the realm of the hypothetical. What if the transporter malfunctions, and instead of disassembling the original, it creates a duplicate, leaving you both standing there in the transporter room? Now there are two of you, each with the same memories, the same personality, the same claim to being the original. Which one is the real you? This scenario, known as Parfit's duplicates paradox, challenges us to confront the essence of personal identity. If two beings are psychologically identical in every way but occupy different physical bodies, can we still say that one is more you than the other? This paradox forces us to question whether our concept of a singular continuous self is merely an illusion. A convenient fiction that our minds construct to navigate the complexities of existence. Perhaps there is no single defining factor that determines our identity over time. Maybe it's an intricate tapestry woven from the threads of our physical body, our memories, our experiences, our relationships, the way we interact with the world, and the ever-evolving narrative that we weave through our choices and actions. Or perhaps, as some philosophers have proposed, the idea of a persistent personal identity is a philosophical mirage, a comforting but ultimately illusory belief that we cling to in the face of constant change. The question of what makes you you is a profound and enduring mystery, one that has plagued philosophers for centuries and continues to challenge our understanding of what it means to be human. There may be no definitive answers, no single solution that satisfies every philosophical inquiry. But the very act of grappling with these questions, of pondering the nature of our own existence, is an essential aspect of what makes us human. It is through these introspective journeys that we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity of the self and the profound mystery that lies at the heart of our being. Let's delve deeper into this labyrinth of thought by examining some alternative perspectives on personal identity. Some philosophers argue that our focus on individual consciousness might be misplaced. Instead, they suggest that our identities are inextricably intertwined with the web of relationships we form with others. Our connections to family, friends, and community shape who we are, influence our values, and contribute to our sense of self. This relational view of identity suggests that we are not isolated islands of consciousness, but rather integral parts of a larger social fabric. Our identities are not solely defined by our internal experiences, but also by the roles we play in the lives of others and the impact we have on the world around us. This perspective invites us to consider the profound interconnectedness of human existence and the ways in which our individual identities are both shaped by and contribute to the larger social tapestry. Another intriguing line of thought explores the role of narrative in shaping our sense of self. We are storytelling creatures, constantly weaving narratives to make sense of our experiences and create a coherent sense of who we are. These narratives are not static, but rather evolve over time as we encounter new challenges, make different choices, and reinterpret our past in light of new understanding. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are, where we fit in the world, have a profound impact on our values, our beliefs, and our actions. They provide a framework for understanding our past, navigating the present, and envisioning the future. This narrative approach to identity suggests that we are not merely passive recipients of experience, but active agents in constructing our own sense of self. We are the authors of our own life stories, constantly revising and refining the narratives that give meaning and coherence to our existence. So where does this leave us in our quest to unravel the mystery of personal identity? Have we arrived at a definitive answer to the age-old question of what makes you you? The truth is that the question itself may be more complex than we initially realized. Perhaps there is no single essence, no singular defining characteristic that captures the totality of who we are. Instead, our identities might be best understood as dynamic, multifaceted constructs shaped by a confluence of factors. Our physical bodies, our memories, our experiences, our relationships, the stories we tell ourselves, and the roles we play in the grand narrative of human existence all contribute to the intricate tapestry of the self. The beauty of this philosophical exploration lies not in finding a definitive answer, but in embracing the very process of inquiry. It is through questioning, pondering, and grappling with these profound mysteries that we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity of human existence and the enigmatic nature of our own being. As we continue our exploration of personal identity, we encounter yet another layer of complexity. The concept of the self as a process rather than a fixed entity. The philosopher Heraclitus famously declared that no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. This analogy highlights the idea that both we and the world around us are in a state of constant flux. We are not static beings, but rather ever-changing processes shaped by the flow of time and experience. Every moment brings new thoughts, new sensations, new interactions that subtly alter who we are. From this perspective, personal identity is not about finding a fixed point of reference, but rather about recognizing the dynamic and fluid nature of the self. We are works in progress, constantly evolving and becoming. This process-oriented view of identity challenges us to embrace the impermanence of our being and to appreciate the beauty of continual transformation. It invites us to let go of the illusion of a fixed and unchanging self and to recognize the interconnectedness of our past, present, and future. But what are the implications of this fluid and ever-changing self? Does it undermine our sense of moral responsibility? If we are not the same person from moment to moment, can we be held accountable for actions taken by a past version of ourselves? These questions delve into the ethical and legal ramifications of personal identity. If we accept the idea of the self as a process, we might need to reconsider our notions of blame, punishment, and rehabilitation. Perhaps instead of focusing solely on retribution, we should prioritize restorative justice approaches that acknowledge the evolving nature of the individual and seek to address the underlying causes of harmful behavior. This shift in perspective would require more nuanced understanding of personal responsibility, one that recognizes both the continuity and the change that define our lives. The exploration of personal identity is not merely an academic exercise, but rather a journey of self-discovery. By delving into these philosophical questions, we gain a deeper understanding of who we are and what it means to be human. We confront the paradoxes of change and continuity, the mysteries of consciousness, and the complexities of moral responsibility. And in the process, we may come to appreciate the profound beauty of our own existence. The journey of self-discovery is ongoing, and there are no easy answers. But the very act of seeking understanding, of grappling with these profound questions, is what enriches our lives and expands our horizons. So keep questioning, keep pondering, keep exploring the depths of your own being. For it is in the pursuit of self-knowledge that we truly come alive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mysteries of personal identity. If you found value in this exploration of thought, be sure to like and subscribe to Peak Intrigue for more captivating journeys into the realm of ideas. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open to the wonders of the universe. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in exploring the strange corners of philosophy and the implications they have on our understanding of the world, be sure to like and subscribe. Today we confront a paradox. A paradox that strikes at the very core of what we believe it means to be a person. The paradox of fission. Imagine a future where technology allows us to split a person, like an amoeba, resulting in two individuals, both physically and mentally continuous with the original. What happens to the original person? Do they cease to exist? Or do they somehow survive as two separate people? And if so, what does that mean for our understanding of identity as something unique and singular? These are not mere intellectual curiosities. They are questions that force us to confront the deepest mysteries of our own existence. Let's start by acknowledging the intuitive pull of common sense. If you were to undergo fission, it would seem as though you, the original person, would continue to exist in both of the resulting individuals. After all, they would both share your memories, your personality, your experiences. It's natural to think that they would both be you. But this common sense view runs headlong into a fundamental principle of logic, the principle of transitivity of identity. This principle states that if A is identical to B and B is identical to C, then A must also be identical to C. In the case of fission, if we say that the original person A is identical to both resulting individuals B and C, then we are forced to conclude that B and C are also identical to each other. But this seems absurd. How can two separate individuals with their own distinct lives and experiences be considered identical? This is the heart of the paradox. Common sense tells us one thing, logic tells us another, and we are left struggling to reconcile these seemingly incompatible claims. To navigate this philosophical labyrinth, we need to carefully examine the underlying concepts at play, beginning with the very notion of a person. What does it mean to be a person? Is it simply to have a particular physical body? Or is there something more to it, something that transcends the physical? One way to approach this question is to consider the concept of temporal parts. This view, put forward by philosopher David Lewis, suggests that the person can be understood as a series of temporal slices, or stages, existing across time. Each slice represents the person at a particular moment in their life, and together these slices make up the whole person extended through time. Think of it like a film strip. Each frame represents a static image, but when played in sequence, they create the illusion of movement and continuity. Similarly, each temporal slice of a person represents a static snapshot of their being, but when considered together, they constitute the flowing narrative of their life. Now, how does this idea of temporal parts help us understand fission? Well, imagine that the film strip of your life reaches a point where it splits into two separate strips. Each strip continues on independently, creating two distinct timelines. This is analogous to what happens in fission. The original person's timeline branches into two separate lines of temporal parts, with each line representing one of the resulting individuals. Both individuals share all the temporal slices up to the point of fission, but their timelines diverge from that point onward. This framework allows us to make sense of the seemingly contradictory claims of common sense and logic. On the one hand, we can say that both resulting individuals are continuous with the original person because they share all of their past temporal slices. In this sense, the original person does survive in both of them. On the other hand, we can also say that the two individuals are distinct because their future temporal slices are different. They are now on separate paths, with the potential for unique experiences and diverging identities. This distinction between identity and sameness is crucial for resolving the paradox. Identity in the strict sense is absolute and unchanging. It's the relation that something has to itself and only itself. Sameness, on the other hand, is relative to a specific point in time or a specific set of criteria. Two things can be the same in one respect, but different in another. For example, you are the same person you were yesterday in the sense that you share the same memories and personality. But you're also different from who you were yesterday in the sense that you've had new experiences and your physical body has undergone subtle changes. This distinction becomes even more important when we consider the duplication chamber example. Imagine you step into a chamber that perfectly duplicates you, creating another individual with all the same physical and mental characteristics. At the moment you step into the chamber, there is only one person present, if we count by sameness. There's only one set of physical and mental characteristics existing at that specific time. But if we count by identity, there are actually two people present, even before the duplication process occurs. This is because identity considers the entire spatiotemporal extent of an individual, not just a single point in time. You and your duplicate share the same past up to the point of duplication, but your future timelines diverge, creating two distinct individuals with their own unique identities. So the temporal parts theory gives us a framework for understanding how fission can result in two distinct individuals who are nevertheless continuous with the original person. It allows us to reconcile the intuition that the original person survives with the logical requirement that the two resulting individuals be distinct. But this theory isn't without its critics, and there are other philosophical perspectives that offer alternative ways of understanding the implications of fission. One such perspective is the branching, or two-headed time worm view. This view, developed by philosopher Mark Moyer, builds on the idea of temporal parts, but takes it a step further. Instead of seeing a person as a linear series of temporal slices, this view envisions a person as a continuous entity extending through time, with multiple branches representing the different paths their life could take. Think of it like a tree trunk that splits into two branches. Each branch represents a possible future for the tree, but both branches are part of the same underlying entity. In the case of fission, the time worm of the original person splits into two branches, representing the two resulting individuals. This model preserves the intuition that the original person survives fission. It also implies that the two resulting individuals are, in a sense, part of the same extended entity. This raises fascinating questions about how we interpret statements made by a person before undergoing fission. For instance, if a person states, "I will visit Rome," before fission, and one of the resulting individuals visits Rome while the other does not, is the statement true? According to the branching time worm view, the statement is true because one branch of the original person's time worm fulfilled the prediction. This differs from the standard temporal parts view, which would consider the statement ambiguous because it's unclear which of the two resulting individuals the I refers to. The branching time worm view also offers a unique perspective on the nature of personal identity. It suggests that identity is not a fixed and unchanging property, but rather a fluid and dynamic process that unfolds over time. The identity of a person is not determined solely by their past, but also by the choices they make and the paths they take in life. In the case of fission, the two resulting individuals start with the same past, but their identities diverge as they make different choices and have different experiences. This view challenges the traditional notion of a singular, unified self, and suggests that personal identity might be more multifaceted and complex than we often assume. However, this notion of branching persons has not escaped philosophical scrutiny. One significant objection comes from philosopher Ernest Sosa. He argues that if a person knows they will undergo fission and knows that one resulting individual will go to London while the other goes to Tokyo, it seems reasonable for them to believe both I will be in London and I will be in Tokyo. However, Sosa argues that this leads to a contradiction, because it also seems reasonable for the person to believe that no one can be in both London and Tokyo at the same time, end quote way. This apparent contradiction raises concerns about the logical coherence of the branching time worm view. To address this objection, we need to carefully examine the scope of beliefs. The apparent contradiction arises from conflating beliefs about different branches of the time worm with beliefs about a single individual at a specific time. The person before fission can hold distinct beliefs about each future branch without those beliefs contradicting each other. The belief I will be in London refers to the branch of the time worm that ends up in London, while the belief I will be in Tokyo refers to the branch that ends up in Tokyo. These beliefs are about different parts of the same extended entity and therefore don't conflict. The belief that no one can be in both London and Tokyo at the same time refers to a single individual at a specific time. This belief is true if we consider a single temporal slice of the person. At any given moment, a person can only be in one location. However, when we consider the entire time worm of a person who undergoes fission, it becomes possible for them to be in multiple locations at different times through different branches. Think of it like this. Imagine a tidal wave approaching an island. As the wave encounters the island, it splits into two separate waves, one traveling along the western shore and the other along the eastern shore. If one wave reaches the northern tip of the island before the other, we would observe two distinct waves traveling north. However, we would still say that both waves originated from the same initial tidal wave. Similarly, in the case of fission, the two resulting individuals can be seen as two separate waves that originated from the same source, the original person. They share a common past, but their futures diverge. This analogy highlights the fact that the fission process doesn't destroy the original person, but rather creates two continuants who share a common origin. A key takeaway from these discussions is that the paradox of fission can be dissolved by paying close attention to the semantics of our language. The apparent contradictions arise from ambiguities in how we use terms like person, identity, and same. By clarifying the meaning of these terms, we can reconcile the seemingly conflicting claims of common sense and logic. One way to clarify these terms is to recognize that our use of quantifiers like one and two is often temporally relative. When we say there is one person in the room, we are typically referring to the number of person slices present at a particular time. However, if we consider the entire temporal extent of individual, we might count differently. For instance, in the case of fission, there are two individuals present even before the split occurs when counted by identity, but only one person present when counted by sameness at that specific time. Furthermore, the term person itself can be understood in different ways. We can view a person as a series of temporal slices, a branching time worm, or a collection of particles that meet certain criteria for personhood. The choice of which view to adopt will affect how we interpret statements about personal identity and fission. The branching time worm view offers a compelling way to reconcile the intuition that the original person survives fission with the fact that the two resulting individuals are distinct. It allows us to acknowledge the continuity between the original person and their continuants, while also recognizing the emergence of new individuals with their own unique experiences and futures. By adopting this perspective, we can make sense of statements made by the original person before fission. For example, the statement, "I will visit Rome," can be considered true if one of the resulting individuals visits Rome. This is because the statement refers to the entire time worm of the person, which includes both branches. The objection that this view leads to contradictory beliefs can be addressed by distinguishing between beliefs about different branches of the time worm and beliefs about a single temporal slice. The person before fission can hold distinct beliefs about each future branch without those beliefs contradicting each other. The analogy of the splitting tidal wave provides a helpful visualization of how a single entity can give rise to multiple distinct entities while still maintaining a connection to its origin. This analogy highlights the fact that fission does not destroy the original person, but rather creates two continuants who share a common past. The paradox of fission ultimately highlights the limitations of our language when it comes to describing complex phenomena like personal identity. Our words are tools that we use to make sense of the world, and like any tool, they have their limitations. In the case of fission, our language struggles to capture the nuanced reality of a single individual becoming two distinct individuals while still maintaining a connection to their past. Instead of trying to force our language to fit a preconceived notion of what personal identity must be, perhaps we should allow the paradox to challenge those preconceptions. Perhaps personal identity is not as fixed and absolute as we tend to assume. Perhaps it is more fluid and dynamic, capable of evolving and adapting to new circumstances. Perhaps it is not something we possess, but rather something we continuously create through our experiences and interactions with the world. The paradox of fission leaves us with more questions than answers. It forces us to confront the fundamental mystery of what it means to be a person and to question our assumptions about the nature of identity. It challenges us to expand our thinking beyond the limits of our language and to embrace the complexity and ambiguity of the human experience. If this deep dive into the paradox of fission has left you pondering the nature of selfhood, and the mysteries of personal identity. Hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you're ready to explore more mind-bending ideas, be sure to subscribe to Peak Intrigue. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep questioning assumptions, and keep exploring the peak of intrigue. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in exploring the depths of human thought, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Today we venture into the fascinating realm of ethical dilemmas, exploring the enduring thought experiment known as the trolley problem. For decades, it's captivated philosophers, psychologists, and now even plays a crucial role in discussions about artificial intelligence and self-driving cars. Imagine this. A runaway trolley is barreling down the tracks. Ahead on the tracks are 5 people tied and unable to move. You are standing some distance off in the train yard next to a lever. If you pull this lever, the trolley will switch to a different set of tracks. However, you notice that one person is tied to the side track. You have 2 options: do nothing and the trolley kills the 5 people on the main track, or pull the lever, diverting the trolley onto the side track, where it will kill 1 person, which is the more ethical option. This is the classic trolley problem, a thought experiment that forces us to confront the complexities of moral decision-making. What's truly intriguing is that studies have shown that roughly 90% of people would choose to pull the lever, sacrificing 1 life to save 5. But this seemingly simple choice raises a profound question. Why does our sense of morality shift when the scenario changes even slightly? To understand this, we need to delve deeper into the nuances of the trolley problem and explore its various iterations. One such variation that adds a more visceral element to the dilemma is known as the fat man scenario. In this version, instead of a lever, there's a large man standing on a bridge overlooking the tracks. You realize that his weight is sufficient to stop the trolley from hitting the 5 people. However, the only way to stop the trolley is to push the man off the bridge and onto the tracks, sacrificing his life to save the others. Would you push the man? This scenario typically evokes a much stronger negative reaction compared to the original trolley problem, even though the mathematical outcome is the same. Saving a net of 4 lives, many people find the idea of pushing the man morally repugnant. Why is there this disparity in our moral judgments? One possible explanation lies in the concept of direct versus indirect harm in the original trolley problem. Pulling the lever is seen as an act that indirectly leads to the death of 1 person. It's a matter of diverting an existing threat. However, pushing the man involves directly causing harm by physically pushing him to his death. This act of direct physical intervention seems to cross a moral boundary that many find unacceptable. Another factor that might influence our judgment is the doctrine of double effect. This ethical principle suggests that it's permissible to perform an action that has both good and bad consequences, as long as the bad consequences are not intended but merely foreseen. In the original trolley problem, the death of the person on the side track is a foreseen but unintended consequence of pulling the lever. However, in the fat man scenario, the man's death is a direct and intended means to achieve the desired outcome of saving the 5 people. This difference in intent seems to play a significant role in our moral calculus. The trolley problem exposes a fascinating paradox. Our moral intuitions are often at odds with purely logical considerations. We might rationally understand that saving 5 lives is preferable to saving 1, yet our emotional and instinctive responses can lead us to different conclusions. The trolley problem isn't merely an abstract philosophical exercise. It has profound implications in the real world, especially with the advent of self-driving cars. These vehicles will inevitably face situations where they must make split-second decisions that could result in harm to either passengers or pedestrians. How should we program these vehicles to make ethical choices? Should they prioritize the safety of their occupants, even if it means sacrificing the lives of pedestrians? Or should they be programmed to minimize overall harm, even if it means putting passengers at risk? These are not hypothetical questions, but pressing ethical dilemmas that we must address as we integrate autonomous vehicles into our society. The trolley problem also has implications for other fields, such as healthcare and military operations. In healthcare, doctors sometimes face difficult choices about allocating scarce resources like organ transplants. Should they prioritize patients with the highest chance of survival, even if it means denying treatment to others? In military operations, commanders must make decisions that could result in civilian casualties. How do they weigh the risks and benefits of different actions? These are just a few examples of how the trolley problem highlights the ethical challenges we face in a world of increasing complexity. It forces us to confront difficult questions about the nature of responsibility, the value of human life, and the consequences of our actions. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that there are often no easy answers when it comes to morality. The trolley problem also challenges us to examine the role of emotions in moral decision-making. While we might strive to be purely rational in our judgments, the trolley problem reveals that our emotions often play a significant role in shaping our choices. For instance, in the Fat Man scenario, our instinctive aversion to pushing someone to their death might override our logical understanding that saving 5 lives is preferable to saving 1. This suggests that our moral intuitions are not solely based on reason, but are also influenced by our emotional responses. And this raises further questions about the nature of morality itself. Are our moral judgments ultimately subjective and based on our individual feelings, or are there objective moral principles that can guide our actions? The trolley problem doesn't offer easy answers to these questions, but it serves as a powerful tool for exploring the complexities of human morality. It forces us to confront our own biases and assumptions and to consider different perspectives. And in doing so, it can help us develop a more nuanced and informed understanding of the ethical challenges we face. Another intriguing aspect of the trolley problem is its ability to highlight cultural differences in moral reasoning. Studies have shown that people from different cultures often have different responses to the trolley problem and its variations. For example, in some collectivist cultures, where the well-being of the group is prioritized over individual rights, people might be more willing to sacrifice 1 life to save 5, even in the Fat Man scenario. Conversely, in individualistic cultures, where individual rights are highly valued, people might be more hesitant to sacrifice 1 life, even if it means saving others. These cultural differences highlight the fact that our moral intuitions are not universal, but are shaped by the values and norms of our societies. The trolley problem has also been used to explore the development of moral reasoning. In children, studies have shown that as children mature, their responses to the trolley problem become more complex and nuanced. Younger children tend to focus on the immediate consequences of their actions, whereas older children are more likely to consider the intentions behind those actions. This suggests that our moral reasoning abilities develop over time and are influenced by our cognitive development and social experiences. The trolley problem has also been a subject of interest in the field of neuroscience. Researchers have used brain imaging techniques to study the neural activity associated with moral decision-making in the context of the trolley problem. These studies have revealed that different brain regions are involved in processing the emotional and cognitive aspects of moral dilemmas. For instance, the amygdala, a brain region associated with emotional processing, is activated when people are confronted with the Fat Man scenario. This suggests that our emotional responses to moral dilemmas are rooted in specific neural circuits. The trolley problem, with its seemingly simple setup, has spawned a vast body of research and philosophical debate. It has forced us to grapple with fundamental questions about the nature of morality, the role of emotions in decision-making, and the implications of our choices. And while it may not provide definitive answers, it serves as a powerful reminder that ethics is not a black-and-white issue, but rather a complex and ever-evolving landscape. As we continue to navigate the ethical challenges of the 21st century, the trolley problem remains a valuable tool for exploring the nuances of human morality and for guiding our decisions in a world where the stakes are increasingly high. The trolley problem is not merely a thought experiment. It's a reflection of the very real dilemmas we face in our lives, from self-driving cars to healthcare to military operations. We are constantly confronted with situations where we must make difficult choices that could have significant consequences. And while there may not always be a clear right or wrong answer, the trolley problem encourages us to engage in thoughtful deliberation, to consider different perspectives, and to strive to make decisions that align with our values. The trolley problem also reminds us that ethics is not a static set of rules, but rather an ongoing conversation as technology advances and our understanding of the world evolves. Our ethical frameworks must also adapt, and the trolley problem, with its ability to challenge our assumptions and provoke debate, provides a variable platform for this ongoing conversation. By engaging with the trolley problem, we can develop a deeper understanding of ourselves, our values, and the principles that guide our actions. And in doing so, we can become more informed and compassionate decision-makers equipped to navigate the complex ethical challenges of our time. The trolley problem also serves as a reminder that our moral intuitions can be unreliable. What feels instinctively right in one situation might feel wrong in another, even if the logical outcome is the same. This highlights the importance of critical thinking and reasoned deliberation when facing ethical dilemmas. We can't simply rely on our gut feelings. We need to carefully weigh the potential consequences of our actions and consider different perspectives. The trolley problem also has implications for the development of artificial intelligence as we create increasingly sophisticated AI systems. We need to consider how to program them with ethical decision-making capabilities. Should we try to replicate human moral intuitions in AI, even if those intuitions are often inconsistent and unreliable, or should we strive to develop a more objective and rational framework for AI ethics? These are complex questions that will require careful consideration from philosophers, ethicists, and computer scientists. The trolley problem forces us to confront the limits of our own knowledge, and understanding it reveals that there are often no easy answers when it comes to ethics, and that even the most well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences. But by grappling with these difficult questions, we can develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and the principles that guide our actions. The trolley problem is not just a thought experiment. It's a reflection of the ethical challenges we face in a world of increasing complexity as technology advances and our understanding of the world evolves. Our ethical frameworks must also adapt, and the trolley problem, with its ability to challenge our assumptions and provoke debate, provides a valuable platform for this ongoing conversation. By engaging with the trolley problem, we can develop a deeper understanding of ourselves, our values, and the principles that guide our actions. And in doing so, we can become more informed and compassionate decision makers, equipped to navigate the complex ethical challenges of our time. Thank you for joining us on this journey into peak intrigue. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the trolley problem, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you're enjoying these deep dives into fascinating topics, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Today, we're diving into a thought experiment called Mary's Room, and it really makes you think about knowledge and whether we can really understand the world just by looking at the physical stuff. So picture this. There's this brilliant scientist, Mary. She lives her whole life in a room where everything is black and white. She's never actually seen color, but she spent her life trying to understand it. She's a neuroscientist, you see, specializes in vision. And even though she's stuck in this monochrome world, she's got all the scientific data you can imagine about color. I mean, she knows everything about light waves, pigments, how our eyes and brains process color information. Like if you asked her about color, she could give you a perfect explanation of how it all works physically. But here's the thing. She's never experienced color herself. She's never seen a sunset, a green forest, a blue sky. So the question Mary's Room asks is this.
If Mary were to step out of that black and white room and see color for the first time, would she learn something new? Would there be something about actually seeing color that goes beyond the physical facts she already knows? It's a tough one, right? On the one hand, she's got all the physical information about color. What else could there be to learn? But there's this feeling, this intuition, that actually seeing color would be totally different from just knowing the science. And the philosopher who came up with this thought experiment, Frank Jackson, he argued that Mary would definitely learn something new. He said she'd learn what it's actually like to see red or blue, a type of knowledge he called qualia. Qualia, they're the subjective, experiential qualities of our conscious experiences. It's how things feel to us, the redness of red, the pain of a headache, the sweetness of chocolate. Jackson's point is that you can't capture qualia just with physical descriptions. No matter how much Mary knows about the physical processes of color vision, she still wouldn't know what it feels like to experience color itself. And this, he argues, really challenges this idea of physicalism.
Physicalism, it's this view that everything in the universe, even our minds, is ultimately physical. But if qualia exists, and they can't be reduced to physical facts, then maybe there's more to the world than just matter and energy. Maybe there's this whole realm of subjective experience, what it feels like to be conscious, to perceive, to experience the world. Mary's Room, it really challenges this idea that we could just reduce our inner lives to physical processes. It makes us think about the possibility that there might be aspects of consciousness that science can't fully explain. Now, you might be wondering, why is Jackson focus on information? Why not just talk about the physical stuff? It's subtle, but it's important. Jackson's argument depends on the idea that Mary has all the physical information about color, but still learns something new when she sees it. It makes us consider the connection between physical information and our subjective experience. If qualia are real, then knowing all the physical facts about something isn't the same as actually experiencing it. And that gap, that's exactly what Mary's Room highlights. And it makes us rethink what we think we know about consciousness and how it connects to the physical world. And this leads us to something, well, that's both fascinating and a bit unsettling. It's called epiphenomenalism. Imagine a steam engine chugging along. It makes smoke, steam, and noise. Right. Those are byproducts of the engine working, but they don't actually affect how it runs. Well, epiphenomenalism says
that our conscious experiences, our qualia, are kind of like those byproducts. They're caused by physical processes in the brain, but they don't actually influence our actions or behavior. So you see a red apple, and the redness you experience, it's just a byproduct of your brain processing light. It's not the reason you reach for the apple. Your action is caused entirely by physical processes in your brain, regardless of what redness feels like to you. Now, if that's true, it raises some pretty big questions about, well, about ourselves and the world. If our feelings and experiences don't actually cause our actions, then what does that mean for free will? Are we just along for the ride, passengers in our own bodies with our conscious experiences not really steering the wheel? Epiphenomenalism, it's a radical idea. It challenges a lot of what we think we know about how our minds work. But Mary's room, it forces us to at least consider it. Because if Mary does learn something new when she sees color, and if we don't want to accept this unsettling idea of epiphenomenalism, then how do we explain her new knowledge while still believing that the world is fundamentally physical? It's a puzzle, and it's led philosophers to come up with a bunch of different explanations. One of them is called the ability hypothesis. The ability hypothesis, it says that what Mary gains when she sees color isn't new facts, but a new ability. It's the ability to experience color, to recognize different shades, to imagine colors vividly. It's like learning to ride a bike. You can read all the books and watch videos about it, but you won't really know how until you get on a bike and try it. In the same way, Mary might know all the facts about color, but she still wouldn't have the ability to actually experience color until she sees it. So according to the ability hypothesis, Mary's new knowledge isn't about facts, it's about abilities. It's about gaining a new way to interact with and experience the world.
Another explanation is called the acquaintance hypothesis. This one proposes that Mary gains a special kind of knowledge called knowledge by acquaintance. It's the knowledge you get from directly experiencing something firsthand. Like you can learn a lot about someone from their biography or social media, but you won't really know them until you've met them face to face. Same with Mary. She might know all the facts about color, but she won't truly know redness until she's directly experienced seeing red. So the acquaintance hypothesis says that Mary's new knowledge isn't about facts or abilities. It's about a direct awareness of qualia. It's a knowledge that can only come from experience. These alternative explanations, the ability hypothesis and the acquaintance hypothesis, they're trying to fit Mary's new knowledge into this idea of physicalism. They're saying that Mary's experience isn't proof of non-physical things like qualia, but just shows how amazing our brains are at learning and adapting. But even with these explanations, the debate about Mary's room is far from over. Some philosophers still say that neither of these hypotheses really solves the problem.
They argue that what Mary learns is so different from any knowledge we get through physical processes that it points to something deeper. That consciousness, with its subjective qualities, can't be fully explained by just physical stuff. The implications of Mary's room, they go way beyond philosophy. They touch on free will, the nature of knowledge, and even what it means to be human. One of the biggest things Mary's room makes us think about is free will. If this idea of epiphenomenalism is true, and our conscious experiences are just byproducts with no real influence on our actions, then what does it even mean for our sense of agency? Like, do we really choose what we do, or are we just going through the motions, controlled by some physical script we're not even aware of? If our feelings, desires, beliefs, they don't actually cause our actions, then what are they even doing? Are they just like reflections of the physical stuff happening in our brains, but not actually calling the shots? Some philosophers have tried to say that even if our conscious experiences don't directly cause our actions, they're still connected to the physical processes that do. Maybe our conscious experiences are like gauges on a machine. They show what's happening inside, but they don't actually control it. The gauges don't make the engine run, but they give you information about how it's doing. Maybe our conscious experiences are similar. They might not directly cause our actions, but they could give us a glimpse into how our brains work. They might let us think about our motivations, consider different options, and ultimately shape our behavior in ways that matter. But even if that's true, the question remains, how much control do we really have if our actions are ultimately determined by physical stuff we're not even aware of? It's a question that's been around for a long time, and Mary's room just adds another layer to it. And the implications of epiphenomenalism go beyond just individual choice. They also make us question our ideas about moral responsibility. If what we do is ultimately determined by physical processes, how can we be held accountable for our actions? How can we be praised or blamed for choices that weren't really ours to make? If epiphenomenalism is true, then the whole foundation of our legal and ethical systems might need to be rethought. Maybe we need to shift away from blame and punishment and focus more on rehabilitation and preventing harm. This idea that our conscious experiences might not actually cause anything, it also has big implications for how we understand knowledge. Traditionally, we've separated knowledge into two types: knowing that something is true and knowing something through direct experience. Mary's room, though, it kind of blurs the lines between these two. Jackson argues that Mary's new knowledge of color isn't just knowing facts, because she already knew all the facts about color before leaving the room. But it's not just knowledge from experience either, because she gains something more than just a direct experience of color. She gains an understanding of what it's like to see color. Qualia, according to Jackson, are a whole different category of knowledge, something that goes beyond facts and descriptions. It's knowledge that captures the subjective, feeling part of our experiences, a kind of knowledge you can't get just from information. This opens up the possibility that there might be other ways of knowing that we haven't even discovered yet. Maybe there are whole realms of experience and understanding that we can't even imagine right now because of how we think about things. If that's true, then Mary's room reminds us of how much we don't know and the limits of our current understanding of the mind and the universe. The thought experiment also raises some really interesting questions about artificial intelligence. If we could create an AI that knew everything about color that Mary does, would it also learn something new when it experiences color for the first time? Or is there something special about human consciousness that allows us to access qualia, this subjective dimension of experience? Could a machine, no matter how smart, ever really understand what it means to see red, to feel joy, to experience the world in all its richness? Or is there a gap between how a machine processes information and the lived experience of a conscious human being? This question gets right to the heart of what intelligence is and whether we can create truly conscious machines. It's a question that will keep challenging us as we explore AI and the changing relationship between humans and technology. But maybe the most important thing Mary's room does is make us confront the fundamental mysteries of our own existence. It makes us wrestle with questions that have puzzled philosophers for centuries. What is consciousness? What's the connection between our minds and bodies? What does it really mean to know something? Mary's room doesn't give us easy answers, but it gives us a way to think about these profound questions. It encourages us to question what we think we know about the world, to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge, and to appreciate how amazing and complex the human mind is. And as we explore these mysteries further, we might find that the most important knowledge isn't about facts or abilities, but about the nature of our own being. The knowledge that comes from facing the unknown, from dealing with uncertainty, from embracing the big questions about who we are. As we keep digging into Mary's room, it's worth looking at the ways people have tried to fit Mary's new knowledge into this idea of a purely physical world. One way is the ability hypothesis. This idea says that what Mary gets when she leaves her black and white room isn't new facts, but a new ability. It's the ability to experience color, tell the difference between shades, and to picture colors in her mind. Think about someone who spent their whole life studying music theory. They understand harmony, melody, rhythm, all the technical stuff. They can analyze scores and pick out the nuances of different styles. But until they actually hear music, until they feel the vibrations of sound and how music makes them feel, their knowledge is incomplete. It's similar with Mary. Before she leaves the room, her knowledge of color is just theoretical. It's based on facts and data, but it's missing that direct experience. The ability hypothesis says that when Mary sees color for the first time, she gains the ability to connect her theoretical knowledge with a real, lived experience. She can now recognize colors, imagine them, and maybe even react to them in new and complex ways. This ability, it comes from her knowledge, but it's a big step forward in her understanding of color. Another way to explain it is the acquaintance hypothesis. This one says that Mary gets a special kind of knowledge called knowledge by acquaintance. It's the knowledge you get from directly experiencing something. Think about the difference between knowing about a place and actually being there. You can read travel guides, watch documentaries, look at pictures, but none of that can really capture what it's like to be there, to see the sights, hear the sounds, smell the smells, and feel the emotions of a place firsthand. It's the same with Mary. Before she leaves, her knowledge of color is filtered through descriptions, data, and theories. The acquaintance hypothesis suggests that when she sees color, she gets direct acquaintance with the experience of color. It goes beyond just knowing facts. It's a direct encounter with what color experience feels like, a kind of knowledge you can't get any other way. Both of these, the ability hypothesis and the acquaintance hypothesis, they try to explain Mary's new knowledge while still staying within the idea that everything is physical. They say that Mary's experience isn't proof of non-physical things like qualia, but rather shows how our brains can turn theoretical knowledge into real experience and learn to direct contact with things. But even with these explanations, the debate about Mary's room isn't settled. Some philosophers say that neither of these really gets to the heart of the matter. They say that what Mary learns is so fundamentally different from anything we can learn through physical processes that it points to something more. That consciousness, with its subjective qualities, can't be fully explained by just the physical. The debate about Mary's room goes on, making us confront basic questions about what consciousness is, the connection between our minds and bodies, and the limits of what we can understand. Whether you agree with Jackson's original argument or with any of the proposed solutions, Mary's room reminds us that there are still deep mysteries at the heart of our existence. It challenges us to examine what we think we know about the world, to question the boundaries of our knowledge, and to recognize the incredible complexity of the human mind. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Mary's room, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the most fascinating corners of knowledge. And as always, we encourage you to keep thinking about these questions, to read more about them, and to talk about them with others. The journey of understanding never really ends, and it's through exploring together and debating these ideas that we can get closer to understanding the mysteries of consciousness and the universe we live in. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you are captivated by our explorations into the mysteries of the universe, please consider liking this episode and subscribing to this channel for more deep dives. Today we're confronting a concept that chills the very marrow of existence, a thought experiment known as quantum suicide. Imagine, if you will, a stark metallic chamber sealed against the intrusions of the outside world. Within this chamber, a solitary figure sits facing a device capable of measuring the spin of a quantum particle. Now, this measurement is no mere scientific curiosity. The fate of the individual within the chamber hangs precariously upon its outcome. If the device detects an upward spin, a mechanism is triggered, releasing a deadly projectile aimed directly at the heart of the occupant. However, if the spin is measured as downward, the chamber remains silent, the individual untouched. This is the chilling premise of quantum suicide, an experiment designed to test the boundaries of quantum mechanics and our understanding of reality itself. The concept hinges upon the fundamental uncertainty enshrined within quantum theory. The idea that the state of a quantum particle remains indeterminate until the very moment of measurement. Until the spin of the particle is observed, it exists in a superposition, a state of both up and down simultaneously. It is only upon measurement that the wave function collapses, forcing the particle to settle into a definite state. Now consider the perspective of the individual within the chamber. Each measurement, each spin of the particle is a gamble with fate, a roll of the cosmic dice. From the outside, the odds appear straightforward, a 50-50 chance of survival with each iteration. But within the chamber, the experience is far more profound. This is where quantum suicide enters the realm of the truly unsettling. It forces us to confront the implications of a particular interpretation of quantum mechanics, known as the many worlds interpretation. This interpretation suggests that each quantum measurement, each collapse of the wave function, doesn't simply resolve into a single outcome, but rather splits reality itself, creating a multitude of parallel universes. In one universe, the spin is up, the gun fires, and the individual meets their demise. But simultaneously, in another universe, the spin is down, and the individual survives. The implications of this are staggering. If the many worlds interpretation holds true, then consciousness doesn't simply cease to exist in the universes where the individual dies. Rather, their experience continues, only in the branches of reality where they survive. With each measurement, with each iteration, the individual's consciousness is shunted into a universe where the outcome was favorable. From their perspective, they would experience an unbroken chain of survival despite the ever-decreasing odds. They would become a being straddling the razor's edge of existence, perpetually escaping death's grasp. This is the essence of quantum immortality. The unsettling notion that within the framework of the many worlds interpretation, death might not be the definitive end we perceive to be. It becomes instead a branching path, a series of diverging realities where consciousness persists only in the branches where survival is possible. The concept of quantum suicide is a descent into the abyss of existential uncertainty. It forces us to grapple with the very nature of reality, the meaning of life and death, and the possibility that our perception of a singular linear existence might be but a fleeting illusion. But the implications of quantum suicide extend far beyond the unsettling notion of immortality. It delves into the very heart of what it means to be an observer, to exist within a reality shaped by the act of observation itself. Consider this. Within the chamber, The individual is both participant and observer, their fate intertwined with the measurement of the quantum particle. Their very act of observing the outcome seemingly influences the reality they experience. This aligns with the principle of wave function collapse, where the act of observation forces the quantum particle to choose a definite state from its superposition. But what does this truly mean? Does the observer's consciousness hold sway over the fabric of reality? Or is it merely a passive witness caught in the inexorable flow of quantum events? These questions plunge us into the depths of the measurement problem, one of the most profound and perplexing enigmas within quantum mechanics. The concept of quantum suicide also compels us to confront the nature of selfhood, in a reality fractured by infinite branching possibilities. If, with each quantum measurement, our consciousness is splintered into countless diverging paths, what becomes of the singular coherent self we perceive ourselves to be? Is there a core essence of you that persists through all these branches? A thread of identity woven through the tapestry of the multiverse? Or do these alternate versions of you become distinct entities, each charting their own course through their respective realities? The implications are staggering. It suggests that the self we cling to so tightly might be nothing more than a fleeting illusion, a temporary coalescence of consciousness in the vast ocean of quantum possibilities. The very notion of personal identity becomes blurred, fragmented across an unfathomable expanse of parallel universes. And what are the ethical implications of such a scenario? If we were to accept the possibility of quantum immortality, would our actions carry the same weight? Would we become more reckless knowing that some version of ourselves would always survive the consequences? Or would the awareness of our existence in countless other realities instill a sense of profound responsibility? A recognition that every choice we make ripples through the multiverse, shaping not only our own destiny, but the destinies of our countless counterparts. Quantum suicide is more than just a thought experiment. It is a philosophical abyss, a descent into the heart of reality's most unsettling mysteries. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding, to question the very foundations upon which we build our perception of self and existence. It is a stark reminder that the quest to comprehend the universe is a journey into the unknown, a confrontation with the profound and the unsettling. And as we delve deeper into the quantum realm, we must be prepared to face the possibility that the reality we perceive is but a fragment of a far grander and more bewildering tapestry. The concept of quantum suicide is not for the faint of heart. It challenges our deepest intuitions about life, death, and the nature of reality itself. It forces us to confront the possibility that our existence is far more complex, far more strange than we ever dared to imagine. Some may dismiss quantum suicide as mere theoretical speculation, a philosophical curiosity with no bearing on the tangible world we inhabit. But to do so is to ignore the profound implications it holds for our understanding of the universe and our place within it. For even if we were to discount the many worlds interpretation, even if we clung to the notion of a single objective reality, the questions raised by quantum suicide remain hauntingly relevant. They force us to confront the limits of our knowledge, the boundaries of our perception, and the unsettling possibility that the universe we observe is but a sliver of a far grander and more incomprehensible whole. Quantum suicide is a call to humility, a stark reminder that we are but travelers in a cosmos of unmanageable vastness and complexity. It is an invitation to embrace the unknown, to venture beyond the confines of our preconceptions, and to confront the mysteries of existence with a sense of wonder and awe. And perhaps in this confrontation, in this willingness to grapple with the unsettling, in the profound we may find a glimmer of truth, a deeper understanding not only of the universe, but of ourselves as well. And that concludes our exploration of quantum suicide, a thought experiment that pushes us to the very edge of comprehension. It is a concept that challenges our assumptions about life, death, and the nature of reality itself. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, be sure to like this episode and subscribe to Peak Intrigue for more deep dives into the mysteries of the universe. Until next time, stay intrigued. Welcome back to Peak Intrigue. If you find value in exploring thought-provoking ideas, be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into fascinating topics. Today we're confronting a question that has haunted humanity for millennia. Is immortality truly desirable? It's a question. It's a question that has captivated philosophers, artists, and scientists for ages. This deep dive will explore the multifaceted nature of immortality and challenge you to reconsider its appeal. We often yearn for a life without end. But what if that very yearning is based on a misunderstanding, of what makes life meaningful. To begin unpacking this complex topic, we need to first understand the fundamental difference between being dead and not being alive. These concepts are often used interchangeably, but there's a subtle yet crucial distinction. Being dead implies a previous state of being alive. It suggests that something has ended. On the other hand, not being alive suggests the absence of life altogether. It's a state of non-existence, devoid of any experiences or potential. Now, the question of whether being dead is inherently bad, well, it's a matter of philosophical debate. Ancient thinkers like Epicurus and Lucretius argued that death is not something to be feared. They believe that death is simply the dissolution of our atoms back into the universe, a return to a state of non-being, where there is no sensation, no consciousness, and therefore no suffering, if there's no experience. They reasoned then there can be no harm. Their perspective offers a unique way of looking at death. It suggests that our fear of death might stem from our inability to grasp the concept of non-existence. We fear what we don't understand. And death, the ultimate unknown, becomes a source of anxiety. However, this Epicurean view contrasts sharply with another prominent philosophical perspective, one offered by Socrates. Socrates believed that death is not an end, but a transition, a liberation of the soul from the confines of the body. He saw the body as a prison for the soul, hindering its pursuit of true knowledge and wisdom. For Socrates, death was a welcome release, a path to a higher state of being, where the soul could finally attain true understanding and happiness. Socrates' perspective raises a profound question. What if death is not the cessation of our being, but rather a transformation into a different form of existence? What if consciousness persists beyond the physical body? This possibility has been a source of both comfort and debate throughout human history. But let's shift our focus now to the concept of immortality itself. Is it truly the blissful state we often imagine, or does it hold hidden pitfalls that we fail to consider? Bernard Williams, a 20th century philosopher, grappled with this question through a thought experiment involving a woman named Elena Macropoulos. Imagine Elena granted immortality at a young age. She lives for centuries, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of countless individuals. Williams' thought experiment challenges us to confront a profound dilemma. On one hand, an endless life could lead to unbearable boredom and a sense of meaninglessness. After all, if we have an eternity to experience everything, wouldn't the novelty and excitement of life eventually wear off? Wouldn't we find ourselves trapped in an endless cycle of repetition, longing for an end that never comes? On the other hand, if we manage to avoid this existential boredom, it might come at the cost of our very identity. To remain engaged in an endless life, we might have to constantly reinvent ourselves, shedding our values, memories, and attachments to embrace new experiences. But if we undergo such radical transformations over time, can we truly say that we remain the same person? This raises a fundamental question about the nature of selfhood. What makes us who we are? Is it the continuity of our memories, our values, our relationships? And if immortality requires us to constantly shed these aspects of ourselves, does it truly offer a continuation of our being? Or does it create a series of new beings, each inheriting the mantle of our name, but none possessing the essence of our original self? This question is particularly relevant when we consider religious beliefs that promise eternal life. If immortality, as Williams suggests, is fraught with challenges and potential downsides, does the prospect of an afterlife lose its allure? Take, for instance, the concept of heaven, often depicted as a realm of eternal bliss. But if eternal bliss leads to stagnation and a lack of growth, can it truly be considered a desirable state? Or consider the idea of reincarnation, the cyclical rebirth of the soul into new lives. If each rebirth brings a new identity, a new set of experiences and relationships, is it truly a continuation of our existence? Or are we merely playing a series of roles on the cosmic stage, losing our core identity with each new incarnation? These are not easy questions to answer, but they are questions worth pondering. As we delve deeper into the complexities of immortality, the allure of immortality is deeply entwined with our fear of the unknown. Death represents a void, a cessation of experience that we can't fully comprehend. It's natural to crave assurance that our existence won't simply end, that there's something more beyond the veil of mortality. But what if that something more isn't what we expect? What if, as Williams suggests, it's not the eternal paradise we envision, but a state of perpetual boredom, or a relentless cycle of self-annihilation and rebirth? This leads us to a crucial question. What is it that we truly value about life? Is it simply the accumulation of experiences, the pursuit of pleasure, and the avoidance of pain? Or is there something deeper, something that transcends the individual moments and connects us to a larger purpose? If we cling to immortality solely for the sake of prolonging our existence, we risk overlooking the essence of what makes life meaningful. It's in the face of our own finitude that we discover the value of each passing moment. It's the knowledge that our time is limited that compels us to make choices, to pursue our passions, to forge connections that give our lives depth and richness. Think about it. The beauty of a sunset, the joy of a shared laugh, the love we feel for those closest to us. These experiences gain a poignant significance when viewed through the lens of mortality. If we were to live forever, would these moments retain their power? Or would they fade into the background noise of an endless existence, losing their urgency and their ability to move us? The philosopher, Thomas Nagel, in his essay Death, argues that the very fact that we are alive, that we have the capacity to experience the world and all its wonders, is a good in itself. But he also acknowledges that death deprives us of this good. It cuts short our ability to engage with life, to learn and grow, to love and be loved. And it's this deprivation, this loss of potential, that makes death seem like such a tragedy. But what if by achieving immortality, we would, in a sense, be cheating ourselves out of the preciousness of life? The knowledge that our time is finite gives our choices weight. It forces us to confront our values and priorities, to make the most of the time we have. Imagine a world where death is no longer a certainty. Would we still feel the same urgency to pursue our dreams, to mend broken relationships, to express our love to those who matter most? Or would we succumb to procrastination, knowing that we have an eternity to get around to these things? It's the very real possibility of our non-existence that imbues our actions with meaning and purpose. It's the awareness of our own mortality that allows us to appreciate the gift of life in all its fleeting beauty. So while the allure of immortality may tempt us with the promise of endless possibilities, it's crucial to remember that it comes at a cost. The cost of sacrificing the very things that make life worth living, the urgency, the passion, the bittersweet awareness that our time is precious and should not be wasted. Perhaps the true wisdom lies not in seeking to prolong our existence indefinitely, but in embracing the beauty of our impermanence, to live each day with intention, to savor the moments, to connect deeply with the world around us, and to find meaning in the knowledge that our lives, though finite, have the power to make a difference. The idea that death gives life meaning is a recurring theme throughout philosophy and literature. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus, he wrote, "It is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. Better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied." What he meant is that a life filled with challenges, with the pursuit of knowledge and virtue, even if it ends in dissatisfaction, is more meaningful than a life of complacent ignorance, however long it may last. The existentialist philosophers of the 20th century also emphasized the importance of embracing our finitude. Jean-Paul Sartre famously wrote, "Man is condemned to be free." By this he meant that we are thrown into existence without a predetermined purpose, and are therefore responsible for creating our own meaning. This freedom, however, is also a burden. It comes with the weight of choice, the anguish of knowing that our decisions shape who we are and what our lives will become. But it is precisely this burden that makes life worth living. It's in the face of our own mortality that we find the courage to act, to love, to create, and to leave our mark on the world. The knowledge that our time is limited can be a source of both anxiety and inspiration. It can make us acutely aware of our own vulnerability, but it can also fuel our desire to live fully and authentically. Let's consider the myth of Eos and Tithonus, a tale that vividly illustrates the potential pitfalls of clinging to immortality without considering its consequences. Eos, the goddess of dawn, fell deeply in love with a mortal man named Tithonus. Desperate to keep him by her side forever, she pleaded with Zeus, the king of the gods, to grant him eternal life. Zeus, ever the trickster, granted her wish, but with a cruel twist. He gave Tithonus immortality, but he did not grant him eternal youth. And so as the years turned into centuries, Tithonus continued to age. His body withered and weakened, his mind faded, yet he could not die. He became a prisoner in his own decaying flesh, a burden to himself and a source of endless sorrow for Eos. This myth serves as a powerful cautionary tale. It reminds us that immortality, if granted without careful consideration, can become a curse rather than a blessing. It can trap us in a state of perpetual suffering, robbing us of the dignity of a natural death and the release it brings. Perhaps the true gift that mortality bestows upon us is the opportunity to live our lives with intention, to savor the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and failures, knowing that each moment is precious and fleeting. It is in the face of our own impermanence that we find the courage to embrace life in all its messy, unpredictable glory, to love deeply, to forgive freely, to pursue our passions with fervor, and to leave the world a little brighter than we found it. That is the legacy we can leave behind, a legacy that transcends the limitations of our mortal existence. and echoes through the lives of those we touch. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and often unsettling topic of immortality. Remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed exploring these ideas. And subscribe to the channel for more deep dives.